I can't imagine what it was like for anybody that did this before COVID. Like, it blows my mind how hard that would have been. 5 days a week in the office. Like, that is so alien to me.
Do you think becoming a parent has changed you at all as a leader?
Oh, I don't know what the PC version of this is to say.
Hello and welcome to the Courageous Leaders podcast. I'm Joanna Howes, your host and founder of The Change Creators. We focus on helping leadership teams build trust, alignment and cohesion to win together. On today's episode, we have the brilliant AJ Coyne, now Vice President of Marketing at Monzo. He brings extensive experience from his previous role at Klarna, where he helped drive growth to 150 million users through campaigns featuring stars like Snoop Dogg and Lady Gaga. So let's get started. AJ, welcome back to the show. It's amazing to have you, your first guest back, second time. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the honor of being a returnee. I'm very happy to be back.
And also really nice because obviously the first time we did it was Zoom and now we're in person.
100%. It was middle of lockdown. So what a different world we're in now.
And a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
And I'd love to know, talking about courage for this podcast, what was the courage it took for you? You've made a change. You've gone to Monzo. What was the courage it took for you to do that leap?
Yeah, I think when we last met, I was fairly new into Klarna. And so had a 3-4 year journey with them, 3 roles in that time, and ultimately speak very highly of the time there and learned a lot and have some great contacts for life. But ultimately on that journey, there were starting to be a lot of decisions being made. And for anyone that knows the industry, they saw big, spikes in valuations and hyper growth, and then sort of a plateau after. With that comes some just difficult decisions that need to be made. I wasn't aligned with a lot of the decisions that were being made, and I guess the value that the company was putting on people, and certainly I guess how they went about the decisions and the thought process to making them just didn't sit well with me. And so it got to a point where it wasn't aligning with who I am as a person and what I believe in. And if you'd asked me when we last met, would I have had the courage to leave a job for that? I would have said no. But over experience both in Australia and since then, to call it quite quickly. And so I was confident enough to be able to say I need to go. And very openly, and in doing so in parallel, look for the right new job.
That's really nice. And what did that give you in terms of that sense of I'm going to stay true to my values? How did that help you as a person, sort of your self-esteem?
Do you know what? The thing that helped me the most was it was really affecting me emotionally. Like when you see people that are super talented that are being really hurt or let go for the wrong reasons, it can really, when you're staying and you're the voice of that message, like it can really get you here. And you mean you've got sleepless nights, you're overthinking, you're anxious, and having the confidence to say I don't agree with it and I'm going to leave meant that it wasn't my decision, and I felt empowered to be able to be like, hey, actually this is wrong and I'm not on this side of this, and actually I felt free. It's
really nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that kind of inner confidence to go, I know what I want.
100%.
And I'm not putting up with it.
Yeah.
And I think both of us have been in situations, you said before, that we did that.
Yes.
So nice to get into that position where you can learn from those negative experiences to bring into future positive ones.
100%. And look, I've got no bad feeling towards anyone at Klarna or anything that happened at all. Because I, as I said, like great experience and lots of adoration. But absolutely, I think the message from me is, when something doesn't align with my values, make a stand and act on it. Yeah.
Great message.
Yeah.
Well, we started strong.
Yes.
There's a very strong message straight away. So if I remember rightly, Klarna was your first client side role. So then Monzo is now your second one. How have you approached Monzo differently, knowing that you'd already gained now quite a lot of experience being client side with Klarna? Well, how has that helped you in your approach and how you've arrived at Monzo?
Really good question. So I think the resilience I learned at Klarna was massive. I ended up doing 3 different jobs in the time there. So from like a UK specific role into more of a global creative role, which is very familiar to the world I started in. And then finally in like a go-to-market role when I was running 35 markets. So within that, you're learning a heap about the different parts of the funnel. You're learning the different stakeholders you have to work with. So coming into Monzo, who are without doubt one of the icons of this country when it comes to brands, it was very much about well, what do they need? And how can I actually really be curious and listen first and foremost? And it turned out that really a lot of the work that they needed first and foremost was codifying the brand. And that spoke very much to the DNA that I have in terms of my career. But equally, I haven't been part of that journey. And so I had to be very respectful to the people that had, and to really listen and learn. And so a lot of my onboarding was focused on that. And I was able to sort of in the background with Monzo work for the 6 months that I wasn't working between the two roles to do a bit of that work so that I could, have an impact from day one. But really, curiosity, I guess, is the key thing. And certainly not coming in with an assumption that just because I've done a version of this at a Swedish pink brand in the financial space, but very much on the payment side, that it was apples for apples, because absolutely it's not.
Yeah.
And so it was more about how can I transfer those skills, but really be curious on arrival.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And I think, it's going well for you because you've obviously now taken another big team on.
Yes.
So every time I speak to you, your role just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
How has that been in terms of the volume of people you're responsible for now? Is it?
Yeah.
If I get that, I don't want to say that. Where are you at to now?
Yeah. I think 200, 300-ish.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you navigate that responsibility to that many people?
Do you know what? It's not easy. Is the first thing. You have to focus on what are the priority areas where you need to really invest your time. I'm someone that wears my heart on my sleeve. And so whether we have like an all hands in either of the groups that I'm leading, I'll be very open with them that if you want to get time in my diary, I'll have office hours every week. That is free for anyone to book. I'm not going to come to you, you come to me. But equally, if you've got something you want to, spitball, chat about, you've got a concern, going via like my wonderful executive assistant, Georgie, is probably going to gatekeep that for 2 weeks. But if you want 15 minutes like today, tomorrow, just send me a Slack and I'll make the time. And so that's the way in which I can sort of, be a human to these people, which is really important to me. But on the flip side, I then have to really focus my strategic energy and my calendar on the things that are going to move the dial for the business. And so it's that sort of balance that I don't know if I learned it, taught it, or just fell into it, but it's sort of working.
Needs it.
Yeah.
I really like what you just said. Come to me. Don't wait for me to go to you.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
I think it's by nature of like being senior and knowing that, the impact you can have on an individual by asking for time or checking in can be quite, not that I'm a scary person, I'm probably the opposite of that, but like it can cause a, like spidey sense to go up or anxiety. And so I don't want to be doing that to anybody. So I have the right forums in which to be able to get that information and then just like open and honestly just say, hey, if you need to chat, here are the office hours. And if you have something like particular, say I'm working a problem statement and I've got a blocker or I've got this idea and it's time sensitive, then there's no way in which that will get to me without you just like being a bit more of a, storming at me.
Well, making it happen.
Correct.
And I think that's really nice. I think because sometimes there's too many people that just wait to be seen, and it's actually you're encouraging that opportunity to speak up, lean into it, come and find your voice to come and bring me in. Because if you do, I'm in. I'm here to help you, but don't keep waiting.
Yeah, that's probably my red energy coming out. But also the fact that I have, lived by that rule myself throughout my career. If I think back to any of the key pivotal moments from being a grad through to going to the UN, like they were all things that like weren't just handed to me. Like you have to make them happen for yourself. And so I think there's an element of that maybe applies to that approach.
And I've seen that in action. I have to say, I think you are one of the most phenomenal people I've seen work a room and connect with people. You do have this ability to just get to know people and put yourself out there and put yourself on the line. Were you like that as a kid, or is that something, again, you learned that was the way to get ahead?
I think I was sort of like that as a kid. I'm definitely a lot more introverted now than I ever have been in my life. And that does take a lot of energy out of me. Like it's more so than I think, thinking back to my early 30s, my 20s, like it was easy to do that. But I don't know exactly if I could pinpoint like why, but but it's been something that's just it has been natural to me. Yeah.
If you're enjoying this episode and finding it insightful, I want to take a moment and remind you, if you haven't already, to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small action, but it makes a big difference. Not only will you be the first to know when an episode drops, but it really helps us to continue to create this content for leaders like you. And I'd love to hear from you. So if you've got thoughts, questions, or ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments. Also, if you want to explore how my leadership training and coaching can support you and your team, then drop me a DM and we can have a call. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode. And with looking after 200 people, I think you've got, is it 2 leadership teams you're responsible for?
Yeah.
What have been the key learnings for you now? Obviously, with such a big task, you can't just be an individual leader driving the charge. You need your leadership teams behind you.
Yeah.
What's been some key learnings for you when it comes to building a team and also seeing the dynamics of 2 different teams you're in within the same company?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, that you have to build trust very, very quickly. And encouraging people to feel that rooms are safe and that they can speak is fundamental. It's a foundational thing. I think we take it for granted when things are just working, but actually some people by default are going to speak louder because that's their nature. Others aren't. And so making sure that everybody's got the space to be able to feel confident to talk. And I think the second point with the 2 groups is that they're so different. And even within each group, the people are so different. So understanding who they are, how they work, and investing time to work out, are they morning people? Do they need all the details? Are they a bit more creative than others? And sort of not changing my style for every person, but certainly being aware of the different people and how they all relate to information. Because by the nature of my role, I tend to have to react to information live and give, my informed opinions. But equally, I know that that's not the same for other people. And I'm someone that will default to, a brief and a sentence and expect everything I want. And so it's actually holding myself accountable to go, actually, am I going to get the best out of this person if I don't ask them to come back to me and say, hey, what do you understand I've just asked you to do? And then 9 times out of 10, it's wrong. And so actually that's been a muscle to learn through that process.
To build up. And that agility, isn't it, to enter the worlds of different people? Because I'm guessing that being in a bank, more like compliance, you're going to have more people that do need more detail, tend to be more risk adverse and more compliant.
Yeah.
Where, for the people listening that know the disc energies or the reds and yellows, you are more red and yellow.
I am.
There's a lot of people you'll work with, which will be more the blues and the greens and the analyticals.
Yes.
How have you managed your patience with that? Because I know you'll be kind of more like fast-paced go.
Yeah.
How have you navigated needing to kind of calm it sometimes?
Yeah. I don't think I've got that right fully yet, if I'm being self-reflective. But I guess I do it by investing time in the people. If I can see someone's not saying something or we're just not getting to the outcome we need to, I will just go, hey, should we grab a coffee? Hey, should we go for a walk? Hey, do you want to go for a beer after work? And that allows the relationship to build so that the style is still going to be important, because I know they react to information differently. But at least we've got a bench level of we can talk in a different way about a different topic. So when it comes to a specific need, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So that works for sure. But I have to be a lot more, focused on the precision of an answer more so than, at times in the creative landscape, you can sort of go with what feels right because you just know. There are many times in my life now where I can't do that, and I need to think about actually what's the data telling me, where are we getting to on the P&L in terms of this experiment, and making sure that we're coming with a very precise approach.
Yeah. So it's kind of keeping it happy, the creativity and the data, keeping it happy for everybody.
100%. And I know your weaknesses. So hire the people that can help you close those gaps and also speak your language in a way that even if they're not blue or they're red, and they can understand that world more, but speak to you in a way that you get, so you can get that job done. So Yeah, that's also a good thing to do.
And what have you noticed in terms of, your leadership style? Because, I was fortunate to come and help you with your team, which was brilliant. And seeing as well how much you care, you do genuinely care about people. And part of the reason you're coming back for part 2 is you are one of the most phenomenal leaders I've seen in action. And whenever I mention your name to people who've worked with you, I was talking to someone today and they went, oh, he made me a better leader.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful impact on people. And you give so much, this caring side comes out so much.
Yeah.
At what cost is that to you?
It's a really good question. I've never thought about that in depth, and I definitely should, but it definitely takes a lot of energy, for sure. But it comes from a really genuine, authentic place. Like I honestly believe that to get the best out of people, you have to care about the person. Like there's no way in that you can have a difficult conversation with somebody if you haven't got to know who they are, got to know their circumstance out of work. A lot of people will be, having for parents, they might have a day before they even start at 8:30 or 9. They might have stuff going on with their personal life that are impacting their ability to show up in the right way. And so like caring enough to know that is really fundamental, because you won't get the best out of each other if you don't. I think with the volume of people now that I have to do that with, there is definitely a cost there. And I think a lot of my focus at the moment is actually what's that right support network around me, not so much like leaders of different parts of the organization, but actually like a team around me to help do that. And I'm sort of spending a lot of time thinking that through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when do you notice, because I know when we were working together, we saw that you really leaned into that kind of yellow energy more, and then that was spiking up because obviously you're quite new within the team. Yeah. That kind of realization that actually setting that direction, being a bit more decisive and going was something the team were like, actually, we're ready for you to do that, bring that back now.
Yeah, it was super strange because like in that world where you have sort of two roles that are very blended, but like distinct different teams and projects and KPIs, I was operating very red in one side and very yellow in the other. And weirdly, as much as I love, like, I guess it's comfortable to me, it does take energy out. And so I hadn't realized that I was more tired. And actually that they wanted the bit that I was more comfortable doing. So I think the only way getting to that clarity is spending that time in the room where you're not talking about work, but like how each other operates. And so that was a gift. And I think we did that really well, where we spent, I guess, 3 Wednesdays in a row together to not talk. I mean, yes, it was work related, but it was really about how to get the best out of each other, how to give each other feedback. I found it enlightening how uncomfortable I felt by getting positive feedback, even hearing you speak, saying, someone said you were nice today. I'm like, well, no, stop. Tell me I'm not very good. Well, I need to do this better. And I feel a lot more comfortable, which I had no idea. And like recently, until about a month ago, that was sort of like, a thing. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's because you're always looking for growth.
Yeah.
It's like, help me work out how I can better, how I can get to the next level.
Yeah. Very impatient.
Yeah, very impatient.
Yeah.
But I think that's been part of your success.
Yeah.
Because you do jump and you do leap at opportunities. You don't, as you said, you don't wait for things to happen.
No.
And even to that factor where you literally phone me and it's like, can you come in next week? And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Best thing we ever did. So
let's do it really quick. And I was like, we're on.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant.
Yeah. Honestly, there was literally, I think, 5 working days. So
just building this like program out of it. And that's, I think, testament. You see a problem and it's like, right, we're going to and I think that's the thing, you prioritize. You go, this needs to be addressed, because otherwise I'm not going to get here if I don't tackle this
first. That really
first.
works in my professional life, not so much my personal life. My wife is like, who you know, Charlie, is constantly like, always need a solution. Sometimes it's okay just to like nestle in the problem, and I'm like, no, how are we going to fix it? And I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Do that.
Yeah.
So talking about personal life and you saying about caring, about the people, understanding what's going on for them. How have you found navigating now, your personal life with such a big role and 2 small children?
Yeah.
What's been the new insights, learning and awareness for you in this growth in your time?
Gosh, work is sometimes a break. Not to no offense to my wife. But so I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. So the stage of that is pretty intense. I like to call it like full of feral humans at home and love, but moments of love. But it does mean that, I think I said it earlier, like, I mean, this morning, I think I was up at 5. By the time I left the house, I'd done I'd done a dog walk, I'd changed 2 nappies, we'd had a bath, like playtime together. Like there was a lot of like things that happened that are a drain, not like positive, right? Don't get me wrong. It's like, it's amazing and I'm very lucky, but it takes a lot of mental capacity out of you. And then you go, right, now I need to flip a switch. And occasionally during that time, I am looking at my phone, checking Slack, getting my brain into work gear. So I'm very fortunate that even before COVID, Monzo was a company where you could work from anywhere. So like, it's not one of the organizations that had to fix because of the pandemic and then work out what it did after. Like, we are very much a hybrid way of working. And that gives such benefits, right? Like, it means that I can work from home 2 or 3 days a week. And it means that, I'm, going out and helping the kids when I can, finishing on time and not commuting back to see them. My biggest thing as a leader in that space is to be really open with everyone around me. If I've had a sleepless night, if the kids have an appointment that I need to prioritize and get to because they get sick and they have things, and you have to do that, and also encourage others to do the same. And so one of our rituals as a leadership team is to really non-agenda, talk to each other, think like, how are we doing? And that doesn't have to just be about like your team at work, but it can also be home life too. And I think that's really, really important to model.
And going through this with 2 small children, has it given you, especially as a man, a different perspective on what it's like to be a woman working with small children? What insight has that given you?
100%. I mean, like, I can't imagine what it was like for anybody that did this before COVID. Like, I can't, like, it blows my mind how hard that would have been, 5 days a week in the office. Like, that is so alien to me. And then for mum's position, like, especially, like, we're fortunate to a certain extent in this country where you get a year, like for some companies, like, but your body goes through such a massive change. You then got to learn to love this beautiful little human, but you sometimes have to learn to get there. But then when you do get there, you've got all these things to do. Can you show up in the same way to work? Can you do everything? And the reality is no. And you shouldn't have that expectation on anyone. Like, no one should have to be perfect in every walk of life, because there's always going to be kids to clean up after, work to do. So like, providing that safe space for mums returning from work is really important, and making sure that they know that even if you work in a company like ours, and it might feel like a new company you come back to, it's still a safe environment for you to be working back into.
And I remember, I think with your first, you took the 6 months?
Yeah,
was it
I did.
The parental, and I think was a part of that because you wanted to represent for men.
Yeah, I did.
It's okay.
Yeah, so I took the full caregiver 6-month time at Klarna. I think it was 4 months in total. For to make sure that I was leading by example. And if I say that you've got great roles to come back to, etc., then I can't not live by the same thing and be like, hey, I'm going to take a week and I'm back. And also selfishly, I mean, we didn't know at the time, but Cece, our daughter, was quite poorly when she was first here. And so I can't imagine a world where I would have left when my wife was recovering on her own to deal with all of that. And so that was I'm very grateful for that from Klarna. Yeah.
And do you think becoming a parent has changed you at all as a leader?
Oh, I don't know what the PC version of this is to say. I mean, I'm not calling my leadership team kids at all, right? But you just have a different perspective on like behaviors, because you see all walks of life with your real children. When you come to work and you see anything that might be a little bit political or a little bit like unfortunate or silly, then you just call it, like you call it quite quickly. So it's given me that perspective that actually I have sort of like, a version of kids in both parts of my world. Yeah.
You navigate it. I think that's brilliant. And what for you do you think is really important now with you've got your leadership team and you're leading them? What is it you're seeing? And we change the question a little bit. What gaps are you seeing in leaders at the moment that really needs to get addressed?
I really think that we're in a world where any good leader needs to operate at all levels. And you need to sort of throw any like idea that you get to this title and everything changes, and that you are in a new room now, and that it's all a different world, because the reality is it's not. And the reality is, to be effective, you have to be able to literally operate at, yes, the level you're being hired to do at a leadership level, but also, get stuck in when you need to. It's not a sit behind a closed door and sort of like, martial orders at people. So I'm very much of the belief that you sort of stand at the front with your team, lead the direction, and empower them to run with you. And I just don't think we operate in a world now where you can't be vulnerable. Like, I think vulnerability is, I get that it's easier to some people than others, right? And like, some people haven't been through as much, like, I guess, vulnerable situations in their world, but you need to be able to show that side of you to really gain the respect. Like, do your job to gain respect, but also show vulnerability to do that too.
Yeah. And it's something we worked on, wasn't it? It's building that vulnerability-based trust.
Yes.
Because obviously without that, you can't go into conflict. Without going into conflict, you can't do commitment. You can't get the results of, what Patrick Lencioni talks about. And it was that beautiful moment where the whole room went vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you could just feel that connection changed immediately. And I was like, wow, you can be vulnerable. That means I can be. And look at what we've just discovered about each other.
Yeah.
And it's not vulnerability for vulnerability's sake.
No.
It's, I want you to, it'd be really nice if you could really see me, and I'm going to trust you to show you a bit of me.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that two-way exchange is so powerful.
And even today in the office, I saw one of my RT, I could just sense flat tone in how they were coming across. And we had a meeting, and I just grabbed them on the shoulder at the end, and I went, "You okay?" I was like, yeah. I was like, "Really?" And actually, no. I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's go for a walk." Like, that is all a byproduct of getting to that vulnerability. We wouldn't have done that like if we hadn't.
So how do you balance the time? I know you said you've got your office hours.
Yeah.
Balance the time between the work demands.
Yes.
And, the growth plans and the numbers I'm sure you've got to hit, and, your targets, versus being able to spot those moments and go, do you know what? I can give you 10 minutes because I can feel you're not okay. How do you find that space?
Really haven't got a good answer for that. I don't actually know. Like, it's really, genuinely speaking, it's not engineered or planned. Like, so it's just about being present, and it's very easier to do in the office. Like, that is the benefit. Like, I'm in London today. I'm in the office. Wednesday's typically our day where it's pretty full. And you can sense check that. You get the physical cues that allow you to do that. I can't do that as effectively at home, because equally I might finish a call and I can hear a screaming baby that I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to give my wife a break for a second. That's not as easy to get to. But always, like, we do a happy busy check, which is also a good sign. So at the start of an LT meeting, where this is a bit more of an engineered example. So out of 10, how happy are you? Out of 10, how busy are you? And you get to know quickly if someone's always a 7. That means 7's a good number for that person. But typically, if someone's giving a low number, you just follow up. You go, okay, cool, right? Like, what's actually really going on? And that's a really good way to check in after that.
Yeah. It's really nice, actually. And to build on that, something I do in my coaching is always go, if someone gives me like a 4, it's don't try and get them to jump to an 8 or a 9. Just go, okay, what can take us to a 4.5 or a 5?
Yeah, I love that.
And make it like, what would you need? What would need to change to just nudge that up a little bit? Because once you start nudging it up, actually quite organically, the number then keeps increasing. Yeah. But if you try and make it an 8 or 9, it's too overwhelming. They can't think of the change, and you go back into that. No, it's just not possible. So I think those small steps to move is really nice.
100%.
Just a quick pause to ask for your help. We received wonderful messages on how the podcast is supporting you as leaders and helping to normalise the challenges you face. To help us reach and support more leaders, we'd love your help. If you haven't already, please can you follow or subscribe on the platforms you watch or listen to us on, as it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. And now let's get back to the episode. And I know something that's really important to you, you mentioned it earlier, is trust. In terms of your leadership, in terms of how you view trust as a leader, how do you do that?
I am someone that defaults to giving my trust. So, like, instinctively, I will give you all my trust. I will give you my time. I will give you clarity of like expectations, and then I'll expect you to meet them. I think if that starts to get broken, that's when I will then start to, I guess, lean in or have, I guess, more questions, or I'm never a micromanager, but I'll go in with the direct feedback if that's the case. So I default to assume trust. I default to everybody is here to do a good job. I default to people have great intentions. And it's if I start to see behaviors that don't correlate to that, then that's when it will be the sort of more difficult situation to manage. Yeah.
But I think it's such a lovely approach, and it's an empowering approach.
Yeah.
Where I do see a lot of people like, you've got to earn my trust.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely
you're not going to do your best work if you feel you're not trusted from the start.
Agree.
So you're setting people up for success.
Yeah. Agree.
Something I've actually just thought of as I was talking, I wasn't planning to talk to you about this. Something that comes up a lot for me is, how do you manage up?
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about here how you manage your team. But something I've always noticed with you, which is genius, is the relationships you've always had with your CEOs or the stakeholders that you've got. It's something that I've learned from you as well, in terms of the way you connect. What would you say, people listening, are some of the ways your approach to that, or how you think about that key relationship of managing up?
Yeah, again, a key thing is like defaulting to bring people on the journey. Like it's really important. Like you need to do that when you're managing down and upwards, right? And understanding within your, I guess, managing up, who are the influences of those people? So who are the people that they're working with regularly that you also need to build the relationship with and build the proof points with? And so it's a combination of both of those things, but I operate in a very similar way to my boss, as I would to my LT. Like I will talk about different things, but I will very much be open, upfront, honest. If something's going wrong, I'll let them know. They can try. I guess I can gain trust quickly. Again, my boss is very similar to me in terms of she defaults to assume trust and in a similar way. But I'll always let her know that I want something, and so she doesn't have to come to me to ask, because I just will know like quite quickly what she cares about, making sure that. And in any boss I've had in the past, making sure that they're aware if it's sensitive, that we're on it, and that there's not. Sometimes there's things to worry about, but knowing that we're across it is more than enough.
So removing that worry because they're informed and they know what's going on.
And you always just ask, if you're in a room with a person, like ask what they want, ask what their expectation of this is. Like I'm constantly asking for feedback, but I'm also asking like, out of these things that I'm working on, because there's going to be things that you just want to happen. Like what are the things that you want to be really crystal involved in? And that's a really great way to just find out, okay, cool, we're going to talk about these two things, and then any problems that arise along the way.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
The whole theme of what I'm getting of what you're talking about is don't wait, don't assume. It's like, come and ask me if you need something. I'm going to ask my boss what they want.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I still see quite a lot of senior leaders going, well, I don't have a job description. I'm like, well, just create it, or go and find out, or go and do 100%. It. It's weird how so many people sit back and wait for it to come to them.
No one is going to hand everything to you on a plate. Like, as nice as that would be, wouldn't that be great? But no, like you are in charge of your destiny. Like you are in charge of where you want to be today, tomorrow, 5 years time. Like, and you don't have to know the answer, but be curious and go get it. Like, absolutely.
And I think that it's reflecting, remembering your leadership. That is what I've seen from you. And I think that's made such a difference what you've been able to achieve.
Yeah.
So anyone listening, if you're holding back, just go and knock on the door.
Yeah. It reminds me, that's how I got into my first grad scheme. Like it was closed and I emailed the CEO. I can't even remember if like smartphones were out back then, but I definitely remember emails were. And so they reopened the application for like 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
You just, don't take no for an answer. Yeah. Just don't wait. Something I'd be curious. I've met your EA, Georgie, who's fantastic.
She's amazing.
Love her to bits. I'm always curious to know, because the EA has great insight in their bosses and can see the behaviours and stuff.
Yeah.
If she was sitting here and I was asking her the question of what she would love to see from you and where she'd love to see you grow and develop, what feedback do you reckon she'd give you?
Tell me to be less kind with my time.
Okay.
I think she thinks I'm too generous with my time.
Okay.
And I don't think she's told me enough times. And that I should be meaner at times. Maybe not mean, but a version of like less nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
And how do you take that advice?
In short, like finding ways in which I can balance the time thing. So the office hours is a default of like responding to that. Okay, we'll have this. These are the slots. where we can do that, and I won't overcommit or say things. And this is the boundary. And then in terms of the less nice, mean thing, it's in the right forums, right? So it's like with the LT, I can be a lot more direct and make calls. In the broader forums, I'm going to always default to being nice. So it's like finding that sweet spot.
Yeah. And for you, in your growth, in your development, where would you like to start being more courageous?
Oh, good question. I genuinely think that like I don't have enough time to do deep thinking. And so I don't know if this is a courageous thing, but like I need to just like have a day a week, half a day a week, 2 half days, just where I go deep on my own, thinking about topics to move the needle. Because otherwise I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about the 3-year plan. I'm thinking about tomorrow. I'm thinking about today. I might dance from 50,000 topics in a 7-hour window. But when the best I can deliver is actually getting the space to think and go, hey, actually, this is going to be a 3-4 hour task. And I don't have that luxury at the moment. And so that would be a big courageous step.
And I think for many leaders that are probably sitting there going, oh my God, that is so what I need. Yeah. And I think it is courage to value the time to think versus going, I've got to be doing all the time. And I think that's the massive difference between a manager and a leader, is the ones that really value. I know someone who will only allow 15 meetings in their diary a week because they know they can't do the quality of thinking they need.
That's amazing.
If they're in any more meetings than that. And they're running like $1 million businesses. So it definitely works. So I think, that courage to go sitting and thinking is as valuable as all the doing and the fixing. Yeah. That's really nice. Thank you. So what for you would be some advice you would like to give to leaders coming up now? What do you think you'd like to pass on?
I would say understand your values, understand what you, I guess, want, like not just, out of your career, but generally like if you're going for, I want to be CMO, I want to be CEO, like why? Like why? Because if you don't understand that, you'll get to a room that you're in and you won't necessarily understand, like, have you achieved it? Because nothing dramatically changes with these new titles that happen. So that would be one. And then I think like we just need a world where people are a lot more vulnerable. People are a lot more open, and where you have the safety that you empower your teams to make the decision, to make the calls. And even if you're not fully involved in them, but you're sort of stood in front of them, protecting them if anything does go wrong.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I think something you said, that protection, I think you said in your first episode, you saw leadership as just removing the barriers to allow people to do greatness.
Yes.
And I think that, what you just said there would allow, if leaders started being more vulnerable and open and stuff, they could start to remove those barriers for 100%. Their teams to empower them. That's really nice. Yeah. Is there anything we've missed, AJ, that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Just to say thank you to you. It is a pleasure to be back for the second time. Very different setting. We've had an upgrade.
I know, we've gone posh.
So but yeah, hopefully something's resonated. And if anyone has any advice for me based on what you heard, then feel free to reach out. But yeah, that's thank you. Nice.
And you're living by your motto, ask.
Yeah.
Just tell me, I want to know. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to have you back. We'll give it another 2 years to get you back again. We just keep your story going.
3 more kids by that point, so perfect.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thanks. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Take care. If you've been loving our Courageous Leaders podcast, please can I ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps keep the quality content coming and reach listeners like you that we can then really, really help. We fund this podcast ourselves, so to have your support means that we can keep delivering week on week. Thank you.